Hello, viewers, and welcome to the Cyber Podcast. I'm your host today, Demi Sakala, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Cyber Podcast. Today, we're joined by Ms. Yvonne Kanenga Nawila, a social policy specialist, productivity, and quality practitioner with over 20 years' experience. She previously held the position of Chief Productivity and Quality Improvement Officer at the National Productivity Development Department under the Ministry of Labor and Social Sciences. And now she is the productivity champion in transit to take up new appointment at Cabinet. She is also the founder of an NGO called Stop Zambia that supports the productivity of older persons. She is also a guest lecturer in quality management at UNZA. In one word, I would describe her as the female big machines of the productivity industry. Welcome to Cyber.
Thank you very much for that new terminology of myself. I'm learning to grow into a big machine, learning everything.
Okay.
With opportunities for women, I think why not?
Thank you. Oh, well, first and foremost, congratulations are in order for your new appointment to Cabinet in transit.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's exciting. I'm looking forward. I've been with the ministry for 14 years and doing all sorts of issues, things relating to labor, social security, productivity, occupational safety and health. So now I'm looking forward to new responsibility. I haven't yet reported, so I don't know how they look like, but thank you.
I'm pretty sure you excel in that position.
I'm hoping to.
It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. So as we get into this, first question I would just want to ask you. In simple terms, what exactly is productivity?
Yes, that's a very important beginning because the Minister of Labor always says that you must always learn to break down productivity into terms that are known and related, to the citizens. Productivity in itself sounds very, very technical, but it's not. And she usually tells me to say, can you say productivity in Namwanga? And I failed to give her that definition of what productivity is in Namwanga. But of course, there are certain words that are synonym to productivity that we can look at. For me, in simple terms, productivity is about value creation. It's about doing more with less. It's about being available when you are needed. It's about appearing in time when it's time for you to appear. That's what it is in simple terms. But in a technical term, it's about one, being efficient. So being efficient, it's about how well you utilize the resources. And then it's also about being effective. That is how well you utilize the resources to create value. It's also about optimum utilization of resources. I mean, we've got so many resources as a country. So to what extent do we use this to create value, to bring in development, to reduce poverty, to reduce corruption, and any other vices that we are known for as a country? So that's what it is, if I were to break it down. It's about continuous improvement or continual improvement.
Okay, interesting. So why exactly would a mere citizen actually care about the national productivity agenda? Like what interest would they have in it?
Yes, so the starting point is that productivity is a catalyst to economic growth. So a catalyst simply speeds up the rate at which you get the reaction done. So that's what productivity does. So when you look at it in a broader term, if we are talking about productivity as being efficient, being effective, or optimal utilization of resources, then what we are saying is that productivity is about people, it's about resources, and it's about how we use them. And so how we use them will determine the results that people will get. So if you want to get a service from a particular institution, if that institution is not efficient, then you will not get the service that you need. If you expect a quality service and that institution doesn't give you the quality or gives you delays and gives you queues, then it is going to affect you, to cause you frustrations. So this is why citizens and everybody else should care about productivity, because this is what delivers goods in time. This is what delivers quality goods. This is what delivers goods at a lower cost, or at a cost which is supposed to be applied to that particular product or service. That's why it matters.
So, in terms of public institutions, they're mostly judged because of their service delivery. But how can you define productivity inside those institutions?
Yes. So an institution is created to do what? To produce goods or services. That is how it is done. And an institution is made up of people who are doing different services or different activities within that particular institution. The activities for me are not very important for the citizen. What is important for the citizens are the results or the value that these services are going to accrue to this particular person. So within an institution, you first of all expect to have people who are qualified. You expect to have people who've got skills, you expect people who've got knowledge on what they're doing, but much more, people who've got a better attitude towards the things they're doing. You can have the skill, the knowledge, but with a very bad attitude, you'll not deliver. So an institution should be able to use this resource, which are its people, its workers, with this combination that I've talked about, to deliver the service, not just as an activity, but deliver the service that will satisfy the customer. And that's how it is.
So, do you think productivity in public institutions can be measured at the same level as it is measured in the private?
I've always said yes. There's been a lot of argument to say, no, the public service cannot be compared to the private service. But I say yes, because if I were to use, for example, the public sector mentality, I wouldn't have come here. I'm from the public service and I've come here at my own cost. This is private sector, isn't it? Mentality. So yes, you can still measure the public sector productivity the same way you measure it in the private sector. Because what are you looking at when you're measuring productivity? You are simply looking at the quality of the product or the service. So in both the private and the public sector, you need quality in terms of the service or the product. If I'm in charge of licenses, I think I'll quote what the president has been saying. If I'm in charge of licenses, issuing licenses, you are in the private sector and you want to drill a borehole, for example, you depend on me to give you the license to go ahead and drill the borehole. So if at all I delay, okay, in terms of issuing this. And so by delay here, we are looking at maybe the turnaround time of how I'm going to give you this particular service. So if I delay, instead of giving it to you in a day, I give it to you in 1 month. What does it do? It affects your service as a private sector. So the same way the private sector wants to get things done quickly is the same way the public service should also respond to that. The second aspect of it is about the cost. So when I am efficient, I'm actually reducing the cost, which in turn will accrue back to the person who is receiving the what? The service. So it should be measured and should be measured in different aspects. It can also be measured then maybe even in terms of the value or the wealth that is being created out of the services and products that I'm offering. So if this is not measured um, in this particular manner, then we will not be able to satisfy, will not be able to create value, will not be able to give out the goods and services that are more desired by the other side, either the private or the citizens in general. So measurement should be the same. The same matrices we use for private sector productivity should be the same ones for public sector productivity, because both involve people, isn't it?
Yes, they
So the same resources you use are the same resources we use inside here.
So, do you believe that institutions can actually improve productivity without changing their internal culture?
No. So, what is culture? Culture emanates from, let's say, if I want to have a culture of keeping time, as management or as a person who wants to institute that, I'll first of all put up certain actions. So, what actions will I put up internally? I'll put up login systems. So, if you come in, you have to log in. I'm monitoring your time. So, eventually, this becomes your habit. So when it becomes your habit, then it becomes your character. So if you and I and her the three of us or everyone in this particular institution are able to comply, just using these actions, making this our habit, and then it becomes our character, then this becomes our culture. So this is done internally. So this internal culture is what now will be able to be seen outside. So if you want to improve the systems, you want to improve everything, you must first of all improve with how you do things internally. So how do you do things? How do you manage your people? How do you manage your processes? How do you manage your strategies? So once you manage this internally, then you'll be able now to talk about productivity outside.
Okay, so you talked about having the aspect of time.
Yes.
So what is exactly the connection between accountability and the quality systems?
Great. That's a very good question. So if you want to make me accountable, firstly, you must be able to be very clear on the roles that I am doing. So what kind of activities am I supposed to do? So I should be very clear. I should be very clear, maybe even on the job description. So what does the job description say I should be able to do? I always laugh. I'm a person who can study the job description. And I studied my job description to a point that I had one key result area, which was saying study tour, both local and international. That's how much I studied that. And I held myself accountable for that. So international means that I must travel abroad. That's what it means.
Yeah.
So I would also make sure that I do an activities around that. So my job description was very clear. My role as a productivity practitioner or head of unit in terms of promotion was also very clear. So there was clarity in terms of the roles. There was clarity in terms of the reporting systems, and then it becomes very easy for me to be accountable. So if you're looking for accountability, first of all, must also empower people. Not only in terms of telling them the do's and don'ts, this don't do this, no, but should also empower them to a point where they've got necessary skills, they've got necessary knowledge, and they've got actually a proper attitude to do that. They should also be able to have systems that will allow them to use their potential. Then and then you talk about accountability in that particular sense.
You talked of the quality systems. Do you think leadership is something which determines whether these quality systems actually survive?
Definitely. Definitely. So when we talk about quality, what are we talking about? Maybe we must break down quality. So there's a thin line between quality and productivity. So when we talk about quality, we look at it in terms of three areas. So you are talking about quality people, quality processes, and quality products. So when we're talking about quality people, who is responsible to have quality people? It's leadership. What does leadership do? Leadership influences behavior of people. So if leadership influences behavior of people, it will influence the quality of its people. So it will ensure that the people that are in that particular institution are well qualified or have actually what it takes to deliver the product and the service. It's the leadership that should identify gaps that exist in terms of skills, in terms of knowledge, in terms of attitude. It's the leadership that does that. It's the leadership that should motivate. It's the leadership that should transform, that should encourage, that should raise the morale. It's the leadership that should award. Are you getting the point?
Yes,
So
I
it's
am.
the same leadership that should also provide a roadmap, a guide on what is required in that particular institution. I've been to institutions which have probably no strategic plan at all or no business plan at all, and things just happen like that. So then, how then do you expect to have quality people who now should now work on the quality processes? So when you get to the quality processes, now you already have people who are sharpened. Then these people now will look at workflows, will look at how certain things will be done. The methods, the mechanism of delivering the service is the processes. So if the processes are a bit longer, what will that do? It will cause delays. It will cause frustrations. It will cause complaints. And that's how come you see a lot of these complaints coming. I always joke, if I'm moving around and I see a very long queue along the road, then I'll tell myself that's a public institution. Unfortunately, I'll say that. If it's a bag, then I'll say, I think this bag is more associated with the public.
The public.
It's not for queues, it's not for delays. Probably because of the nature of the public service being a bureaucratic. But this time around, no. because if you look at the tone which is being sent by the same leadership we're talking about, the tone is that we must be efficient. The president has been saying timely delivery of goods. That's leadership. So everybody looks at, okay, what is it that I can remove here so that I am timely? You talk about quality good that must be given to the citizens. So what should we change here as leaders, as leadership, so that we should be able to remove these gaps and be able to provide the service? So that's what leadership will do in terms of the processes. So once the processes are very clear, streamlined, turnaround time reduced, then you have the product and the service that is now desirable for the people. Then you reduce all these frustrations from the citizens. You reduce poverty.
Wow. Okay. The
Yeah,
interconnectedness of
yes, yes, yes,
everything.
yes. I wanted to connect it to poverty because poverty is a mindset issue.
Mhm.
Poverty is how you utilize the resource that you have.
Okay.
Poverty is how you respond to the opportunities that are available before you.
Mm.
So if these facilities, opportunities are there with you, and you can't choose the processes, you can't choose the opportunities that are there to create value, you remain poor. Well, poverty is a productivity issue.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'd like to draw attention on those institutions which are inefficient.
Mhm.
How do they cost national development?
Yeah. So how do they cost? Firstly, let's look at what we're talking about now. Uh-huh. We are in the economic recovery. We're talking about economic recovery. I mean, we are coming from the drought. We're coming from COVID. We are coming from highly indebted. We're coming from low productivity, levels, especially labor productivity. I should also add to the statistics because I know is good in this research and numbers.
Mm.
Zambia, as we sit here, the labor productivity globally sits at 5.2 kwacha international dollars per man hour or hour of work. You've said. So this is where we are. We are in this low labor productivity, low competitiveness, high poverty, and all these things. But then the government is saying we need to move. Where do we need to get? We need to get to this higher level of productivity. We need to get to a higher level of competitiveness. We need to get to a situation where the economy just flourishes. That's where we need to get. But then, if there's no attention, if institutions don't pay attention to issues of productivity, issues of efficiency, it means that this is going to affect national agenda. In productivity, we talk about a productivity ecosystem. This is how it works. So at the micro level, we've got individuals, yourself and myself. So the contribution you and I make will also give us an idea of how cyber, as our institution, also behaves or relates to us. So if you and I are less productive, cyber becomes less productive. So cyber as an institution here is at the major level. The second layer, maybe at association level, network level, or just this organizational level. But CYPA doesn't do certain things in isolation. CYPA reports to higher goals that are either in the NDP or higher developmental national goals. So if CYPA is not productive, then what happens is that these results will affect national productivity at a higher level. It will affect developmental goals. It will affect our outcomes there at the national level. So that's how it works. So an institution should look at itself as a basis for higher productivity so that when we talk about higher outcomes in terms of developmental outcomes, we first of all starting from this lower level. Look, if we say poverty in Zambia is about 68% national poverty, where is it coming from? Is it coming from the nation which doesn't exist? No,
No.
it comes from the people. It comes from institutions. So that's why institutions should also be very serious and take productivity very seriously because it affects the national outcomes.
So I believe with all these issues in productivity, there have been some reforms. So my question is, why do these reforms fail even when the technical solutions are clear?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. And I'm always like at pains when I look at the reforms that we have done. Firstly, from 1964, when Zambia gained independence, we had the first ever national productivity policy in 2021. That was a reform to locate productivity as a serious issue, as a policy issue. If something is not a policy issue, then it means that you don't allocate resources to it, you don't talk about it. So immediately in 2021, when the national productivity policy was developed, then it means that we began now to put up measures to motivate people to improve productivity, to help institutions, individuals work in a concerted manner that collectively we can improve the levels of productivity. So when we look at the reforms that government has done over time, in terms of just improving their competitiveness, you can talk about maybe institutions like is it Presidential Delivery Unit, Public-Private Dialogue Forum. All these are reforms that have been put in place through these institutions to do what? Number one, to ensure that all gaps are sealed, that all barriers are unlocked. Unlocked for what? For higher productivity. So when you look at all these things that are being done, unfortunately, I don't think they're moving at the pace at which we need to see this. Because productivity is not about activities. Reforms is part of the activities that we do. You sit down to do a reform, to do a law, to do a policy, to do restructuring, all these activities. But that is not what we are up to. We are up to the results. We are up to the outcomes, you know. Of course, that are being necessitated by different processes that are in place. But then, if we look at the outcomes that we have right now, nobody is happy. You're not very happy. I am not happy. One thing that makes me sad, first of all, is the reform on CDF. We can talk about that candidly. CDF is it was a policy shift to ensure that you have more money go on the local, you know. And I have worked with cooperatives, I've worked with MSMEs in rural areas, urban areas, who are recipient of this CDF, which is a major reform that happened in this particular country. Okay. But then when you look at the impact of these monies that have been received by these people, probably there's even actually nothing. So people get money and use it for other things. We have the NAPSA. Recently, the NAPSA law was reformed to allow for a 20% partial withdrawal. People got the 20% partial withdrawal. How many people have created value or from these monies that they have used? I've seen people who have gotten money from CDF, from women empowerment, from youth empowerment, who actually lives are still as poor as they were. We're talking about artisanal mines. The government has prioritized issues to do with artisanal mines, reformed the mining sector to allow even Zambians to participate in mining. I've been participating in the training of artisanal miners. And sometimes after training, people have been given licenses. You hear that they have sold the licenses to foreigners instead of using them, to mine. Recently, there's a new reform, SI 68, which allows 20% of preferential treatment for Zambians, about 20% if you want to supply to the mines and all this. This is meant for Zambians. So, how many of the Zambians, you and I, are busy opening up companies so that we should go and participate in such kind of reform? So you see that on face value, the Zambians are not participating. The results we so much need, the result the president so much looks out for, is not particularly seen. Sometimes I see his frustration. I'm a member of the Ministerial Delivery Unit, and sometimes when he's talking, he's saying, "But what is the problem? So I have done this, but poverty seems to be high. People are still complaining. So why are people still complaining when all these reforms have undertaken?" It's about the attitude. That is what just makes the difference. The attitude of you and the attitude of me as a Zambian. We've got a sense of entitlement, not a sense of responsibility. We've got a sense of entitlement, not really a sense of duty. So, unfortunately, we are the ones that should be active participants in all this to ensure that the reforms and everything else government is doing provides value or leads to these better developmental outcomes.
Okay, so it's like people are resisting these systems. Do you think there is a way in order to improve that aspect?
Yes, there is. So maybe the first question should be why are people not acting up? Why are people not coming up to this particular challenge? There are certain people who've been very comfortable with the status quo. Okay. I like it when I'm here because this is where I belong. And probably I have seen opportunities just here. So when you bring in the system that makes a change to how I'm doing things, then it means that you have to destabilize me when you resist. So just even this CDF, what has been policy direction in this regard is that if you are in Kazempa, for example, where my minister comes from, and you want to participate in terms of building, construction, and whatever, you must be a local person. So probably previously, people would come from Lusaka to go to that particular place. So immediately you say, no, you have to deal with the local. It means that you've cut down on that person who used to move from Kasempa, go all the way to these other places. You get the point. So that person is going to resist this kind of system that has been put in place. No matter how much it's good for the nation, but as an individual, this person will feel disadvantaged, then they will resist. So yeah, and also sometimes people are just comfortable and they don't want to take up responsibility. So if at all you change a particular system, it means that you either add an additional role to the things that I am doing. So, and I'm a lazy person. It means that you're fixing me. You're fixing me. You are removing me from that position where I was just working reluctantly. Now you're putting me on a spotlight where I'll be very visible. And do you think I'm going to like that? Then I'll be able to resist. So that is what it is. Otherwise, the systems themselves are meant or are created to provide change and to provide better public services or services in general and products. That's what it entails, in my view, anyway.
So, with this aspect, it increases the aspect of accountability. Do you think there's a way in which to improve productivity and this accountability without creating that fear?
Yes, definitely they should. Like I said earlier on when we were talking about accountability, so that can only happen if I have clarity in and assurance. So if you change my position, you change my position and change the way we do things. So you must be able to assure me to say, guy, you still maintain your job, you still maintain your salary, you still maintain your opportunities, except they'll not come in this way. Maybe they'll come in a different manner. So there should be that clarity, and then there should be that assurance that I'll still be okay even with a change. So, and this calls for change management. We also do, from the department, we're also doing change management trainings. So whenever there's a change in terms of policy, shift in terms of assignment roles, it should be accompanied by this kind of training where people are just assured. There should also be a way in which there's motivation. Okay, so if you're going to take away this role from me, what else complements this? So how else am I going to be motivated out of this? So if you came and said, okay, there's a policy that no traveling, okay, abroad, and I told you from the beginning that I started my job description and traveling is one of those things I love to do. I love the plane. So if you remove the plane, then there should be something that you should create that is going to incentivize me, still give me the morale to keep on doing these things that I'm doing. Yeah, there should be a very proper award system, for people that are responding positively to the changes that have been created. If there's no award attached to the things that I would do, then it also removes the motivation. And by award, I'm not only talking about salaries. I'm talking about just other things. I've been to ShopRite and I've seen they put a poster which says the employee of the month, and something like that. Just something to pat you, at your back to say, well done. So that way, accountability improves because I take ownership. And also, it's not everything that people should just be instructed to do. So okay, I also don't like working in an environment where I'm just receiving instructions. I love to think. And that's one thing I think I've enjoyed at the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. That I can confess. I love to think outside the box, and I love to suggest. I love to come up with new ideas to innovate. You get the point, huh?
Yes.
So when this happens, I become accountable to the action that come along with everything like this. But if everything is just being told to me to say you do this, do that, then I don't take accountability of these issues. I'll say, no, this actually was initiated by my boss. This actually was initiated by another person. You've seen. So I'm not part of it. It's just something that was instructed. But if I have made a suggestion, in productivity, we are always talking about putting in place systems where people should participate. We talk about quality control circles. We talk about suggestion schemes, not suggestion boxes. Because the suggestion box is where just somebody comes and drops a box in there.
Yeah.
But the suggestion scheme is where we can sit down and come up with an idea and suggest. Because we've done the overall assessment of how it should work, how it should look like. We've done the situation analysis, we've seen the weaknesses, the strengths, and all that. And so now when you make a suggestion, you are actually suggesting from the numbers that you have gotten from whatever you have done in your assessment. And so when you participate, it makes you own. And so even when it comes to accountability, it is something that you'll be held accountable for and you take responsibility. And this contributes to higher productivity and actual competitiveness. So these are some of the linkages that I can think of. Yeah.
Those are some good practical incentives to actually increase productivity.
Definitely.
So, in your view, if there was just one thing you would change in terms of institutional habits in Zambia, what would it be?
I'll change the mindset. I'll change the mindset of a Zambian and instill the mindset of a Rwandanese or Nigerian. Okay. So what does this mean? I always say when I'm coming from home, I'm going for work. Very early in the morning, I'll find the Zambian shop closed. I'll find the Rwandanese shop open. When I'm knocking off, I'll find the Zambian shop closed. Rwandanese shop open. That's a persistent, that's a resilient way of doing things, which Zambians don't have. We're so sympathetic. I don't know who made us to be like babies. We'd like to be spoon fed. That I really would want to change. And I think in my productivity campaign, I've always been telling people to say, you see, you must be an active ingredient in this. You must be directly responsible for any improvement that you want. As an institution, no one will tell you. You know, I was doing this training for artisanal miners, and then this guy puts up the hand and then says, Ministry of Labor, what are you doing about companies that are exploiting people? In Nyumbwa there's a company where people are made to use mercury, with their hands, and they're able to move. And then I was like, God, how do you think like that? You want Ministry of Labor to come and tell you to say this is deadly? Yes, you want somebody to come and tell you to say that this is deadly. Yes. So you yourself, when you are getting to something, you must be able to say, I think this is not good enough for me. I cannot walk in there. So you must be a responsible person. Ministry of Labor will just come and check. But you yourself, who is directly involved, there must take responsibility. So I think we must move away from this notion of where things should be done for us. So if you want people to go and inspect the whole country, how many inspectors are you going to have? Is it practical to have 20 million inspectors to inspect each and every individual's work? Definitely no. But you as an individual should be able to say no. And right now, when you say no to a job that is precarious, you have an opportunity to go and apply for CDF and then do your own business. You've got an opportunity to go to CAC and then run through all those processes, get the loan and run your own business. And this is what we don't have as a country. We don't have this. We don't want to suffer. We want things that are on the silver plate. We want to want tantama for things. Unfortunately, the president, I think, has been very clear. We must participate. We must do it. We must work hard. In fact, it says work, and more work after work. So we must go beyond the business as usual. This is what I would change.
So, is there anything that gives you hope to say that Zambia can actually significantly become more productive?
Definitely. So as we speak right now, on 5th March, we launched a program called the 100 Days of Productivity Activism. Today is day number 44 of the 100 Days of Productivity Activism. So in this 100 days, we said that we'll go out, flat out, and talk about productivity candidly. We'll talk about it. Even if it affects you as a public service worker, we're going to talk about it. If it affects you as a private, as an individual, as a youth, as a woman, as a person with disability, we'll talk about it during these 100 days. And that is what we're doing. And we're also asking people to sign the national pledge, which we have created during these 100 days. The theme very clear. Mindset shift for a productive Zambia. And every positive action counts. That's the theme of the 100 days. And as people are getting in contact with this message, I am hoping that there are one or two things they are changing. We need a cultural transformation. That's all we need. We need to move away from the Zambian culture. Timekeeping. Who starts a timer? No one. We are all always giving excuses when it comes to timekeeping. That's a culture that we have created. We've got a culture of dependence. It's what we have created. So I should depend on government. Even when you throw rubbish, you still say, Boma Yangane. What kind of a culture is this? You carry rubbish all the way from Botswana. You can't throw it in there because the government there doesn't, the system there doesn't allow. Immediately cross into Zambia, you're getting the rubbish and you're throwing it outside the window. You see that? So this is the kind of culture we're talking about. We are talking about people taking advantage of the facilities that have been created for people to learn. I mean, skills development. 20% of CDF goes to skills development. Let people go and do skills. And what skills should they do? Is skills that are available on the labor market. How can you go and learn marine engineering and you expect to come back to Zambia? Where are you going to use that one from? So as the ministry, we've actually come up with what we are calling the critical list of skills, critical skills list, which is telling you where the skills are needed so that you can be employed. You do the course and then get employment because the labor market is very clear with the skills that are needed. So these are some of the things that we are trying to do, so that people should be able to be aligned. So that way, it will help us get to where we want to get. Otherwise, with this party sense of entitlement, Boma Yanganepo mentality, we shall definitely get nowhere. And so that's why during these 100 days, we are emphasizing on this. And probably that's why I'm here also to talk about it because Cypher probably could have gotten wind of this. And through this, your viewers, your listeners will be able to learn one or two things and change certain practices. We just have to change. Should we be punishing? We will actually be advancing the National Productivity Bill, a law. Obviously, it's not really to punish people, but to compel. Sometimes when compelling fails, I think penalties should also apply. I heard just on a lighter note that in Japan, when you throw a piece of trash down and a person sees you, they'll whip you to death. Wow. I also heard the Singaporean president says whoever says this is impossible is stupid and lazy and deserves to be in prison. So I've heard these very hard sentences from leaders for the countries that have changed. 1964, Zambia, Singapore, Botswana were in the same, GDP category. But today, these countries are way advanced. Singapore is managing even to pay surplus, bonuses, to its citizens. Dubai, UAE was not even in the World Bank record. You can check the records there, you people are what. You will not find Dubai around the 70, 64. But look at Dubai today, where it is. It's because the leadership there took up certain actions, that were very, very compelling, to the citizens. I think we babysit the Zambian people very much. That's how I feel sometimes. Please, I don't want to be a president because I come and make very anyway, that's not I cannot. But that's what it is. That is just what it is. We must be accountable. We must be serious. I think as a nation, no one is going to build this country. It's you and I who contribute to make this country better. If we continue with this mindset of entitlement, this mindset of just wanting certain things to be done in our own way, even when something is very clear, something is very helpful, you find people arguing, go on social media, this law has put up, and then people are arguing from their selfish point of view. No, no, no. This is not going to lead us anywhere. I think we need to be serious with our country for to make this country great. We are in the Champions League.
Yes, indeed. This 100-day initiative is something which I hope all the viewers have gotten hold of because I think it's something which is innovative and could actually help a lot of people.
Definitely, we are using every platform. Wherever we hear there are people gathering, we are rushing there to go and just avail ourselves and say it. I remember I was in Choma, and then I heard that there was a meeting in Livingston. I didn't even have any transport money to go there. I just got in my vehicle. I said, I need to go and use that opportunity. I drove, to Livingston just to go and look for a 10 minutes or 5 minutes opportunity to talk about it because I'm very passionate about it. And I think it's the right way to go. if we're to change this country. Should pain you to be poor with all these resources. We're talking about 60% plus poverty. We've got water, we've got land, we've got people. 90, I think majority of the people are not physically disabled. And I work with persons with disability, and I know some of them are actually doing good, better than the people who are able-bodied. So we really need this message to go out there. I hope your listeners will give you feedback on what they intend to do with this message when they receive it.
Indeed. Wow. So you spoke of the productivity bill.
Mm.
So what kind of penalties or incentives do we expect to see in this bill?
So the first thing is that the bill has been presented to cabinet for approval in principle. So at the moment, it has not yet been granted, and we still been given an opportunity to consult and to inform people about what productivity entails. So productivity entails timeliness. It entails being effective. It entails being efficient. But our focus in terms of trying to push for this particular law, number one, is to have a proper institutional framework, institutional legal and policy framework for implementing productivity. So that is just what is there. So once approval is granted in terms of the cabinet approval, then we'll be able now to go out and give the full details of what is involved in the bill. But for now, I can comfort you to say that it's about institutional framework for promoting productivity. It's about legislative framework. What kind of laws do we need within the law? The sub laws we need within the law that will help us promote this productivity that we talk about. Yeah, so that's what it is. So I cannot give the details because it's not, but it is still sitting with cabinet. So once approval is granted, then the details will actually be availed. I talked about it because you can have a policy that stipulates what you need to do, but to operationalize a policy, you need to enforce certain things. So, and that's what that law is going to do.
Okay. So I'd like to draw your attention to institutions which appear busy every day, yet the citizens still experience low quality outcome. They see them very busy. So what exactly happens in those aspects?
So we are actually very busy. Zambia is a very busy nation. Okay, so what makes us busy? What makes us busy? Activities. That is what makes us busy. Activities. When you look at the government budget, or most of these budgets are called output-based budget. You know what an output does? So, number of appearances on podcasts. Call it a podcast. Number of appearances 2. So I've done 1 here. Then I'm going to do another 1. That's an activity. I would have done it. Okay. Number of inspections conducted 100. Number of this whatever done. That's an output based budget as well as a plan. So, and that is what makes us busy. We are busy with activities, but productivity is not about activities. It's about the outcomes. It's about the value that is created out of this. In global, we measure labor cost competitiveness as an example. So labor cost competitiveness measures the wealth created from the personnel emoluments that have been given. So you've been given a salary, you've been given allowances. So from all these things that you've been given, how much wealth are you contributing? You see that? So Zambia is not actually part of those that have been measured, meaning that our labor cost competitiveness is very low. It means that you and me as individuals, despite everything we get to do certain activities, we do not add any value to our GDP, to our national growth. In simple terms, you and I are thieves. We are robbers, maybe so to say. So when we say we are busy, yes, we are busy. But from our business schedule, what value are we adding? What value are we adding? So when you look at, first of all, our labor productivity statistics for 2022, we're still working on the latest one for 2024. I think it may be to also cover 2025, but the ones that I have on my fingertips are 2022 labor productivity statistics. So we have 19 industries that we measure. So you're talking about agriculture, talking about tourism, you're talking about the public service, ICT, mining, to mention, there are about 19 of those. So when you look at what is happening in this kind of sectors, people are busy. Activities are happening. But then when you look at the statistics on labor productivity, just the agriculture sector, it's 9 kwacha 2 ngwe per hour of work. It means that on an average, the agriculture sector workers contribute 9 kwacha 2 ngwe in the economy. That's what it means. You see the point? So they are busy, things are happening, workshops are happening every other time. You see the workshop. But to what extent do these things we do create value? There's a problem there. So that is what it means. It means I've gone to the office. I've reported, I've told my children I've gone to work. Then I sit in my office. The whole day I'm just on WhatsApp. But I have logged in very early. I'm just on WhatsApp. I'm busy chatting with my friends. You see that? The files are just seated on the table. I'm not even touching them. I am busy, very, very busy. Doing what? Doing nothing. There's a term that I like, which was said by one of these philosophers. Don't confuse being busy to being productive. There shouldn't be this kind of confusion. So being busy is just involving yourself in activities. Activities are not, you cannot base productivity on activities. We base productivity on the outcomes, the value that you have created, the wealth that you have created out of everything else that you have done. If I've been in the office for 2 hours, how much work have I done in 2 hours? Compared to the person who's been in the office for 8 hours. Some productive countries don't even have 8 hours, in the office. Maybe they work for 6 hours, but they're very, very productive. They work on goals, they work on targets. So that's one thing institutions need to do. We all need to move to a contract based. Maybe, I don't know, not permanent and pensionable. You know, you have your job. I have my job. I'm guaranteed of my job because I'm in a permanent and pensionable. So even if I haven't given you the results, no one is going to fire me. We used to have a colleague who would actually come to the office after 9 days. In the public service, for you to be fired, you must be absent maybe 10 days consecutively. 10 days. So this guy appears on the ninth day. How are you going to fire such a one? So you will not be able to fire such a one. You see the point? So so we must be able to have targets. People should work on target. Me, I do that. So I will tell my people in my unit, I said, okay, what are we working on this month? We are working on 1, 2, 3, 4. In terms of awareness, we must reach 1, 2, 3, 4 people. With or no money, we must reach. I don't know how we're going to reach, but we must reach. So we must be able to work on targets, set very clear targets. And we talked about the role of leadership. That's what leadership does. It sets targets. It sets performance indicators. What is it that we're going to focus on? How are we going to measure what we're doing? It's leadership. And if people have not met the targets, you as a leader must be able to sit down with your people to say, look, this is what we intended to do, but we have not done it. So in the absence of that, people will be very busy and you achieve actually nothing. You would have been in the office the whole year with all targets not achieved, not achieved. And when you're asked to just be busy saying, no funds, no money, but you were coming for work. You were busy, you were attending all these things. What happened? It was the absence of leadership. That is a sign of poor leadership. It's a sign of poor accountability, poor mechanism to monitor performance. So the whole overall productivity of an institution is not achieved by one person. It's achieved by the whole lot of you. What you do, what she does, what he does, put together will result into proper institutional outcomes. And that's what we measure.
Okay. So do you have any recommendations or last words to these public institutions with regards ways in which they can actually improve their productivity and not just be busy?
Yes. So the Ministry of Labour through the National Productivity Development Department is available for institutions to do what? Number one, we do productivity consultants. So what do we do in there? We do productivity needs assessment. We find out why probably your institution is not working the way it should work. And then we'll be able with you to come up, design programs that will help enhance this kind of gaps that we have identified. We also do strategy alignment. So you have strategies that are misaligned. So if the strategies are misaligned, it means that you will not be able to achieve that which you have put in your strategic plan. Structural reforms. So the number of people you have in that particular institution should also be able to contribute to achieving your strategies. So you've got the whole lot of strategies that you've put in place that you want to achieve, but you only have one person. Is that practical? No. So the ministry through the National Productivity Development Department does all this. In addition to this, we've got an institute called the Kaizen Institute of Zambia. It's under the Ministry of Labor. It does the training in Kaizen, which is the continuous improvement. It's a Japanese philosophy, but I can tell you, very, very good and very, very practical, proven, to help improve institutional productivity. So this is what we do. So I would like to urge all institutions that want to enhance productivity to contact the department and the ministry and the other institution to try and see how best they can be supported in terms of productivity. A doctor, when you are sick, you need a doctor. So when an institution is sick, it needs an expert, and we sit in there as expert.
Okay. Thank you so much for this informative and instructive talk. It was an honor and privilege to have you today. And I would like to ask if you have any final words.
No, thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate this particular information. Probably as one of the last activity I'm undertaking under the Ministry of Labor. And my last words is that let us all become productive to create a better Zambia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, that was another exciting episode on the Cyber Podcast. And remember not to just be busy, but productive. Thank you.